What's up, friends? Well, let's get right to it in this one. This video is about caring about other people versus caring about yourself. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We are selfish creatures, but we're also altruistic. We can get into philosophical debates or value debates, moral debates about what's right and what's wrong, but ultimately I don't really believe in universal morals. Okay, I believe in personal virtue, taking personal responsibility and having values for the things that you hold dear and believing in them. And I believe that our subconscious will pick up on lies, and we can't lie to ourselves very easily. Some people maybe lack the emotional skills to be able to actually realize that they're doing something wrong, and this would be the sociopathic or the psychopathic community within our society, which is about 1 to 2%. And then there are maybe the other 5% or so, I would imagine, of sociopathic followers who look up to people who are selfish and therefore think that that's a virtue and something that they want to have, even though in the depths of their heart they know that what they're doing is wrong, such as taking advantage of people to make profit, or justifying stealing, justifying lying, cheating. I like to consider myself virtuous, but I don't hold my nose up and say my values are high, because I know that my values are based on what I interpret in this world, and I know that if I do something that's bad, then my karma will bite me in the ass one way or another. Even if it's something that never happens to me, I will still have that coming back at me, even if my own heart is the only thing that holds me back, by just knowing I did something wrong. And that right and wrong is definitely up to me. Some people might not cuss. They would think that that's wrong. I mean, that would be something that in their religious belief maybe is actually a sin or something bad. For me, that's just bullshit. Of course I don't believe that. But other things that I might think of are bad values, some people may think are acceptable. So in the end, what I'm getting at is we're told by society to care about one another. And we generally do. I mean, I do. I think about people who are sitting on the border, say Syrian refugees, and I'll see a Vice news clip where they go in and they talk to the people, and you see these families who, like this one lady who was about to have a baby, and she was all excited and happy, and she had all these nice new baby clothes wrapped up in a plastic bag to keep them clean in the dirty hut that they were staying in, just making it through with the best intentions that tomorrow will be better. And then seeing how people like that are cast aside as them, the other side, the refugees, And this is just one example, but I guess I could use the same example with immigration. I put myself in the shoes of if I lived in Mexico and I knew I could jump the border and go to America and work under the table and make profits, it'd be the first thing I'd do, of course, if I really wanted to, if that's the life I decided. And I can't assume what I would do in any position, but people are people. And I guess we all have different ideas of how important it is to care about other people and what levels of care we're willing to give and who deserves that care. Most parents would agree that your children come first. Now, this is partially an obligation of being a parent because you gave birth to these children and they need your protection. So it's an obligation because it's your responsibility to raise them, but also because somebody needs to protect them. Yet at the same time, you want them to be independent, but you want them to be social. You don't want them to have to fall back and ask somebody else every time they have a problem, or expect acceptance from their peers. But at the same time, you don't want them to be so stubborn in their own thoughts that they don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I really think this comes down to balance. I mean, I can't say for sure what goes through other people's heads, of course, and I know that we all probably fight in our minds about what's important, but when it comes down to caring about other people, that we do have to draw a line at some point. When you get into the political sphere, it comes down to us versus them, and we're using invisible borders or colors of skin or languages we speak to separate ourselves from other people so we don't have to feel responsible. But it even goes further, even the same color skin, the same country, the same city, same state, same neighborhood, two people with opposing political views can literally hate each other because of the way that they think. And understanding that, both sides are important. If for nothing else, to look at what's wrong with some of the ways that we think as people. But humans are very complicated creatures, of course. But me sitting here talking to you on the camera here, it's realizing that each one of my subscribers, or just random people, whoever watches this video, they're living their own life. And up till now, you've had all your own shit to deal with. We have similar situations in life, such as you've probably had a job and lost a job, or you've probably, had an issue with your parents, or maybe lost a parent, or a sibling, or a friend. We've all lost, we've all gained, we've all loved, we've all hated. We've all been through some rough times. And I just mean generally. There are some people who, of course, have lived in the lap of luxury with a silver spoon in their mouth since they were born. But to think that they're not suffering because of that is ludicrous. Of course they are. They're just suffering in a different dimension, a different reality. You can live your life in a padded room eating caviar and still be miserable. You still be in danger, maybe even a danger to yourself in that case. But don't look at anybody and think that they don't give a shit. Because most people, even the people who seem like they're just, scathing and hateful, deep down inside, sometimes they're just really hurt and they're more afraid of loss than anything. I went through a period in my life around the time I lost my father when I was about 15. Soon after that, I had a couple of friends who stole from me, different situations. And each one of them stole different things that were family heirlooms that had belonged to my dad. And this is just after my dad had died. So here are my good friends I'm letting stay with me. And on different pages, they each stole things like his wedding ring, some other things I won't go into. But I stopped trusting people. I stopped giving a shit about other people's opinions. I went into almost, for a while there, around 96, 97, I went into like conspiracy mode. I read Behold a Pale Horse. I started learning about martial law and the history of our country and all the things we've been through, poisons and testing, the things our government had done. And I realize now, it's not that I deny all those things happen, it's that I don't let them rule my life. I see the positive, not by ignoring the negative, but by seeing what it is and moving on and not getting hung up on that. And in the same way, people who have had issues in their life, they tend to stop trusting people once they've been wronged. And I totally can respect that and I understand it, but it's something that only harms ourselves in the long run. We become wrapped up in our own lives and forget that other people need our help. And I know that I'm guilty of that too. I still carry some of that baggage, even though I know how I want to be in my life. It doesn't mean that I necessarily am the way I want to be all the time. I would love to be that first and foremost go-to guy where people could come up and just, hey man, I got a problem and I need your help. Of course I'll help somebody if they really need a problem. But if somebody just wants my time for a minute, if I'm in the middle of something, it's hard for me to just, switch modes like I have my demeanor. It's who I am. And constantly we're improving upon that a little bit at a time. I want to be a people person, and from your point of view, watching this video, you might be thinking, what are you talking about? You're probably the most social guy ever, and sure, I do talk to people, but I'm not. I have social anxiety sometimes too when I go out. It's a lot easier to talk to a camera than 50 people in front of me, 100 people in front of me. Completely different story. Because I'm kind of talking to myself in a way, So, life is complicated, people are complicated. Who are we obligated to? Even if it's not the immigrant, even if it's not, the dying person in another country or another city or state. What about your family, your direct family, besides your kids? Such as, are children obligated to their parents, and to what degree? Is it something that a burden that we should carry our entire lives to take care of family, whether it be parents, whether it be your children when they're 50, or whether it be your, are you obligated to somebody in your bloodline just because they're a long-lost relative or distant cousin? Such as, for example, the people that pop out of the woodwork after somebody wins the lottery, and you hear about these people like, oh yeah, I haven't seen you forever, or never, but I'm your cousin, or I'm your cousin's cousin. No obligation whatsoever to anybody just because they have the same bloodline as you. I mean, that's something that I think it really needs to go away. But if a person's earned that respect within your family and you know them, that's a completely different story. So I think that we have to just know our hearts and our minds well enough to know who we truly feel obligated to. And we can only know that internally. And I think that it's something that we have to work on. But in the end, we can push people away all we want, or we can bring everybody in all we want. Only we're going to know if we're truly happy and it's really working. And that means being honest with ourselves. So, peace, namaste, and all that stuff. And I'll talk to y'all on the flip side. It's my fire pit. Gonna have a fire tonight, maybe. What do you think, Callie? Should we have a fire? Kitty, kitty. Take care, everyone. Beautiful